Hello, hello. We are live. Welcome, everyone. Great to have you here. We have a few people already in the stream. And of course, welcome to Gio. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be really, really cool, guys. We're going to give it a few more minutes before we start just to get everyone on board. But we have Gio Nakpil here, and he is the senior event creative 3D evangelist. And he's going to explain what that means because I think it's a really cool thing. It has to do with community and helping artists. And this is one of the reasons I think it's such an honor to have him on board because he's all about helping other artists. He's doing like mentorships. He has a bunch of live streams coming up in the other server, in the Discord server. But I'll let him talk about that. So welcome, Gil. Great to have you here. I cannot wait to see the stuff that you've prepared for this stream. And if you have any questions, guys, anything at all, feel free to put them in the chat. We're streaming in different social medias and obviously in Facebook and YouTube. So if you have any questions, put it in the chat. We'll just grab those, and when Gio has a space for Q&A, we'll just ask those questions. But again, thank you so much, Gio, for joining us. Yeah, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. Actually, I could hear my echo. It's like a double voice
Can you
thing
hear
going
yourself?
on. Yeah, I can hear myself. Maybe a bit challenging.
Check that.
Yeah.
1
But in
second.
the meantime, thank you for being here. Those who I'm seeing in the chat here, the activities. Okay, I'm good now. I just realized I don't hear myself anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah,
was-
I can start.
looking for that.
How long do I have, Pablo? I'm sorry, I should have known that. Like 1 hour, so I can, or even more. Like, what's
Oh
the?
man, if it's up to you, you can just keep going. I'm just like
Just
I'm
I'll
gonna be
keep going
watching
until
like
you
the rest
stop
of.
me. Yeah.
All
right.
I'll give you a reminder, maybe 1 hour mark, and then see how we go.
Okay. All righty. So let me go and share my screen. So can y'all see this? The PowerPoint?
Yep, almost.
Okay. All righty. Okay, so my name is Giovanni Nakpil, as Pablo mentioned, and I'm a senior creative 3D evangelist. And what exactly is that? Because every time I mention that title, people, have questions, genuine curiosity. And essentially what that is the creative 3D evangelists, we're a group of artists who we work with developers internally to give meaningful feedback from an artistic point of view so that our apps evolve with artistic input. But the one thing I do really love about this job is a part of our endeavor is to also work with the community, as Pablo was mentioning, work with the artistic community and be of service to those who need our help when it comes to questions about the apps or the industry. Like I'm doing mentorships and just being a part of the community, engaging with people. And my co-workers in the team, Creative 3D team, also do the same. And so if you're curious at all about what we do, we've created a Discord community. I'll leave this on here for 10 seconds or 15 so y'all can copy this down. But this is a great community to be a part of, where you can essentially share and interact with us, and as well as many amazing artists there. And we're just building this to be a community where people can just be in their toxic free and be able to share and teach and learn from each other is our main incentive for making this. And the Creative 3D Evangelists, it's an amazing team. We consist of Nikki Monteleone, Emily Bissett, Vladimir Petkovich, and our fearless leader, Wes McDermott. So that's us, the Creative 3D Evangelist.
Nice.
Okay, so
who's that guy?
Who's this guy? All right, so I mean, my background essentially, for those of you who do not know, I've been around for a long time, 20 plus years. I'm not gonna kind of beleaguer the whole background thing because I really want to get to the fun stuff, right? But in terms of my work experience, I've been in the VFX industry for 12 years at ILM. Even some years before that, I'm not even going to touch on. But from ILM, I went to Valve for some really formative experience when it comes to not just working in the real time environment or video games, but just to kind of rewiring the way I think outside of just being an artist of like, oh, I'm going to do this because it's cool. Well, at Valve, I was able to really kind of start thinking about things in a way that is more like maybe customer facing or just practical or analytical. And then from Valve, I went to Facebook or Meta now, and then from Meta here at Adobe. So that's me. This was a farewell card that the ILM department gifted me when I left. Pretty much photoshopped my the shows I was able to work on and the creatures that I worked on while I was
That was pretty cool. I thought it was real.
there.
That was your
I mean,
collection.
hell, if I had those toys as a kid, I would have been like, I would have never grown up. I would have chosen to be a kid forever.
Very nice.
And these are my social handles. Instagram. I'm always on Instagram. That's my main platform when I'm updating things. And I have an art station that I have not updated actually in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But our agenda for today, so you all know what is up ahead. Intro background. Hey, I've already done that. That's done. You can scratch that off the list. I'll touch on a little bit of the personal work, just really, really quickly, so you have some idea of the type of work that I do. I never want to assume that everyone here knows, me, but so I kind of want to just like touch on that, and it also pertains to the demo that I'll be doing, right?
Right.
And then we're gonna kind of do some slideshow lecture. I call it toolkit because we'll touch on that later, but this will give context to a lot of the things I'll be demoing in 3D later on. And those are abstract shapes, water balloons, you'll, again, to those who don't know, you will, and hierarchy of forms. So, and then we're going to switch gears and really delve deep into the topic at hand, which, when I first met Pablo about this, the brief was, if I could do something with the theme of underwater sea creatures. So, and I wanted to take you all through my kind of creative journey of how I come up with an idea. I always sketch, through a sketchbook or here in Fresco, which is what I did, and take you through that, and all the way to the 3D demo in ZBrush. So this is going to be our packed agenda for today.
Intense, but awesome.
Yeah, so that's why I'm going to be talking really quickly.
And just very quickly, just to give everyone a little bit of context about that brief that I gave you. That has to do with the current challenge that we have running now that you can join and you can start working. So this is like a perfect opportunity to get inspiration, get some really cool tips from Gio, and get to work really and produce a creature of the deep for the contest. So if you're curious about that, just head over to the pablander.academy. You'll see a big timer in the homepage, and you just click on that and read all the guidelines. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, and just in terms of the vibe of this this presentation, I always want it to be casual. So once we probably get to the more demo-y part, feel free to ask any questions. I don't know, Pablo, if you have any thoughts on that, but to kind of keep it a bit more interactive,
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of like saving it to a Q&A at the very end, kind of be more interactive with it. So anyway,
yeah, absolutely. If you're cool with that, I'll just get some of the questions from the chat, because I have the chat with me as well, and Brendan as well, and then we can just put them in and get them answered as we go.
That's cool. Alrighty, so some personal works. These are mostly old stuff because I seem to gravitate to a lot of the old stuff that I had done. But I love anatomy. I guess if I were to pick one thing that I may be kind of known for is sort of like how I depict forms as it pertains to anatomical figures, I guess, may it be humans or creatures, right? So, and rarely do I ever really kind of go super detailed in terms of like surface work. So my main fascination with the depiction of form is also depicting movement with those forms, may it be through these gestural marks that I choose to leave on the surface, or if it's finished, how the highlights play off of those forms, may it be the bigger forms or the smaller forms. I'm always focusing on movement, right? Like if that arm is kind of like reaching down, I want that deltoid to kind of have a sense that it was in mid motion as it landed on that pose, with those forms outstretched that way through the highlights, So sometimes I also do like finished works, but it's rare. I figured I'd just put this in here because I'm like, hey, I was actually kind of happy with this one. From Dune, which was I love that movie, and Dave Bautista. I also I don't do it as much anymore. Statues, I did this for Tweeterhead and Sideshow a while ago. Some really detailed work here where I actually had to kind of sit down and bust out the surface detailing. Yeah, kind of using someone's hair brushes. No, this was before the GeoBrush, actually. Yeah, for Panther there, that was your hair pack.
Awesome, man.
And some of Beastman. On Beastman too, I think. Yeah, but anyway, and I also like to do weird, disturbing stuff, creepy stuff. I'm not gonna linger on this one. I grew up in the '80s, so like Fangoria, like practical effects gore. Just thought I'd kind of like pepper that into my slideshow, but that's some of my interests. But again, this concept of forms, readability, hierarchy, and all that stuff. It's something I really try to put into a lot of my work. And one thing I love to also think about is intention, right? Like I try not to put anything there that is superfluous. It always has to have a reason.
Right.
So if say I look at this, or someone looks at this and go, yeah, it's a fairly detailed model. Like I want the detail to matter, not like surface detail that's just there to kind of make it look like it's detailed, right? For this one, like I want the detail to come into the fact that this thing is like tensing its muscles. It's doing something, and in the case of this one, it's squeezing the the lungs out of the poor victim it's holding. But at that snapshot, in that moment of time, I chose to capture that with all these muscles activated, so I can tell that story of that that story through the forms, right? So, and composition, it's just kind of like and maybe it's because my attention span isn't made for like the poor work, which I'm like, I really would love to kind of get into that. I'm so envious at people who could do that, but I'm like, no, I'm just gonna kind of stick with my realm of like bigger shapes. And so
well, those are the important ones, right?
Yeah, I mean that's at a certain point, if you're gonna render this to make it look real, right, you're gonna need to put some pores on this. But yeah, like I think I have this thing. I've been doing this for a while, so maybe at some point I'll move into the more detailed stuff. But for this one, I'm always looking at the composition of the shapes, the bigger shapes. Can you see my mouse, by the way, pointer?
Yeah, we can see it. So you treat let's say this character, you treat the character itself as a composition, finding the balance between those forms and those shapes within, let's say, the outline, or within the shape that the character has on the screen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so, if we're talking about like, kind of fast forwarding a little bit, like the primary shapes, right? What are the primary shapes of this? Like, and I think of things as graphic design as well. Like I'm studying graphic design a lot. And the great thing about that is, like the design of shapes and how they relate to each other, right? With these, the what do you call this? The shoot, the scapula, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to figure out as well what
Yeah,
was.
like I mean, my anatomical knowledge, I would always lean more towards if it kind of looks good, then it's good, versus accuracy. Like I'm
Mhm.
more of a, yeah, if it feels right, then it is right, versus,
Right.
oh, is it accurate?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the design of those shapes is something I really strive for. And so, which leads us to our toolkits. Now, I call this toolkit because I was thinking about it. Like, these aren't exactly like physical tools, like from a sculptor's toolbox, or a brush in ZBrush, like Damn Standard or the GeoBrush. These are more
Mhm.
concepts, but it's very much a part of my workflow, as importantly as any of the more tangible and physical tools that I use, right? So
Mhm.
these toolkits are the things that a lot of them is what I'll be talking about during the demo. So I wanted to give some context as to what they are, right?
Mhm.
So starting off with abstract shapes. What are abstract shapes? Natural forms that harmoniously intersect, creating beauty through chaos. My personal definition, other people
Yep.
may have their own definition, but for me, I always use this example, like when I'm at a grocery store, when people see like an orange, they look at it going, "Oh, is it fresh? Is it in season?" Well, when I look at it, yeah, I may think of that too, but mainly I'm always at first and foremost looking at the abstract shapes of the skin. There's a lot of fascinating things to see in nature in general. So this is, I've just kind of trained my eyes to look at these things, maybe in clouds, tree trunks. They're
Mhm.
amazing for this kind of stuff. Like, I'm always kind of like analyzing, like, oh man, how can I divide this into different shapes, right? Like, okay, so there's a cylinder here, there's maybe an orb here for that. Like if you squint your eyes, there's this sort of like a highlight there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I do that as well.
right? Yeah. So you're kind of doing the blurry eye thing to kind of
Yeah.
really separate the forms away from the detail.
Do you do it
So
while you work, or you do it when you looking at references? Because for me, when I'm working, sometimes when I do these streams, people think that I'm sleepy, but
mhm.
it's because I'm squinting my eyes to see those forms.
Oh, also when I work, that's a good point. Like it's just almost automatic. And I think that's why I have like a really deep corrugator groove on my my my
Maybe that's because you're
between my
just happy.
eyebrows. Oh, the corrugator is like when you scrunch, like
Yeah, but you're like happy, angry.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Like, because I also have the crow's feet, the smiley stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all of the upper face muscles are activated. Melinda Ozell is here, which I think she said she would. She's the amazing expert in faces.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I'm always like blurring my eyes and like looking at forms with anything really.
Yeah.
So that's abstract shapes, right? And
Hmm.
you'll see where this comes into play, because where this comes into play is, or what this is doing is, I'm building a library of visual reference in my head I can pull from when I'm just in the flow of creating a design for my forms,
Hmm.
right? I'm not like, "Ugh, what do I do here?" I'm kind of like climbing up. I'm like, just it just comes out, right? So
Right.
um, yeah. Water balloons, these are dynamic shapes that fluidly adapt under the influence of gravity, stretch, and tension. This is, I think, one of the most important toolkits for me.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, how can I, when I was thinking up of my online class I did a while ago, like I wanted to convey this concept of gravity and forms, and this I think captures it perfectly. If you think of a rubber casing, you know,
Hmm.
and inside of it is a water or a fluid of some kind. Um, and it has a head and a tail that could be pinned or unpinned, and the apex, right? So these 3 points are the things that I'm always looking at with a water balloon: the
Right.
apex, the head, and then the tail. So what then happens if, say, the head is pinned but the tail
Mm.
isn't? Well, what's going to happen to that fluid? How will that settle inside the case? Where will
Mhm.
that apex, that peak of the form, be? Right, which will be here.
Mhm.
I mean, imagining. I don't know if it's accurate, but yeah, I would imagine intuitively it would be there. And if it's like both pinned in this manner, apex would be here. That's how the water balloon would probably look, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. Right? Like
Mhm.
this one's a little bit stretched and pinned versus here, so it takes on more of a teardrop, and so thus the apex is a little lower. And so these are just, it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, it has to be like physically accurate. It's just like a guide that I use in my head whenever I create form in any manner, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think this is a great reference, like a great
mhm.
visual reference for anyone, really.
Yeah, it's really helped me because then, another aspect of this, which I didn't want to include it here because it's going to take a lot longer. But like, okay, what happens if this water balloon is wrapped around this water balloon? Like say
Mhm.
the brachoradialis, water balloon, and then coming out of the brachialis to, towards the tendons of the hands, right? Like,
Right.
so you're thinking about how the water presses against each other to create interaction and bulge and tension and push and all that stuff.
And you
So, but
could
mhm,
almost like visually as well with the same sort of metaphor, think about the material of that balloon.
mhm,
So an aged skin
mm.
will have more wrinkles and will be more stretchy than a younger skin.
Exactly, and that
Mhm.
is an important aspect of the water balloon, is that you're taking into consideration like exactly that, like what type of creature is it, right?
Mhm.
If it's say like an old warlock with like saggy skin, then of course it's almost like maybe like uh like guts, the casing, for
Yep.
sausage.
Yep.
Maybe it's more
Yep.
like
Yep.
that
Yep.
instead of a thicker hide,
Mhm.
from like say maybe an elephant or a rhino. So
Mhm.
that is a very important aspect to add on to this, is what is the skin as well, right? Because that affects the gravity as well. So,
Mhm.
and my the last toolkit we're going to be talking about is a hierarchy of forms. This is common knowledge now at this point. Primary forms, when Pablo, you said the squint thing, this is really what I'm looking at mainly, is uh, am I ruining my primary forms? And the primary forms are essentially the foundational aspect of, in my opinion, of sculpture. Right. This is where you start establishing the relationship of the shapes among each other. Like are the deltoids in perfect balance with apex, and is it readable? Does it look like it's going to catch light?
Mhm.
The readable light when this thing is afar. What is the skull structure a little bit, before you start getting into the details of it. Like, is that plane there that's catching the light? Is that how much light I want it to reflect off when this thing is like fully detailed out, but it's off in a
Mhm.
distance, right?
Right.
So that's why it's very important for me, because this is like where you're defining the character in terms of the architecture of it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then from here, you move on to secondary forms, where it's always a tricky balance for me, right? Like, okay, like, as I'm going down the form hierarchy, I always try to make sure, okay, any form that I add, is it adding value to the primary forms or taking away from it?
Mhm.
So, like the primary form of the cheekbone, like here, I've kind of decided maybe, oh, I'll take on this configuration, but I'm still trying to, for the most part, doing the squint test. Like, is it the primary forms that I want to I want to see when I'm zooming out or squinting my eyes,
Hmm.
right? So, but this is just kind of starting to add the flavor of the character at this point.
Right. Some visual interest.
Yeah, some visual interest. Like essentially at this point, all of the elements should be there. Like if there's any spike stuff or like these gills, uh,
Hmm.
this is the time to put it. And tertiary forms, which from before, like for a while, I noticed online, like when people talk. I mean, and this is like personal definition, right? Like it's
Right.
like nothing's really right or wrong. But for me, like when I look at tertiary forms, and I see someone talk about tertiary forms, I'm like, for me, that would be surface detail, in my humble opinion, right?
Right. Right.
For me, tertiary forms are still forms.
Right.
So if like if you see me do like these details, I'm in there like one by one, like adding clay
Yeah.
buildup marks in these like GeoBrush trenches there, right? Like, I mean, in this case, I think this was done in Modeler, but like if
Hmm.
this was a ZBrush modeler, ZBrush model, so each of these are still forms. Like if I zoom in here, these should ideally be like little mini water balloons having effects on each other. And what that
Right.
does is, it just, for the most part, right? Like, I mean, depending on your time and patience, but for me, I try to do that because it gives a rich feel and flow to the entirety of the character. If you
Hmm.
do it that, I mean, for me, if someone does it that way, or if I do it that way, I just feel more drawn to work in that
Yeah.
manner,
Yeah.
right?
I
Yeah.
totally know what you mean. One of the things that I said to the students, for example, is that
Hmm.
I share your view on the tertiary shapes. They're not
Okay.
necessarily details; they're just like smaller shapes. And the way that I kind of like put it is the primary and secondary form, they still deform the outline of the character, and the
Hmm.
tertiary forms, they you start to get that visual interest, but they're not details, and you could almost define the tertiary shapes as having their own primary, secondary, and tertiary details.
Yeah.
So you can just go into like smaller bumps, then go into the pores, and then if you want to really go deep,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're kind of like all grouped together under the tertiary forms.
Yeah, exactly. And to touch a little bit on what you said earlier with the water balloons in terms of, the type of skin it is, right?
Mm,
Like the tertiary forms also define the type of skin or plating, whatever, of the surface, right? But yeah,
mhm.
like this could have its own secondary and tertiary relationship to each other. So um, really, meant to convey exactly what that surface is, right?
Yeah.
And then detail on top of that. You could
Mhm,
add like a beautifully detailed surface noise
mhm.
that ideally won't disrupt any of this. So it's like applied in a way that is, additive, not subtractive to
It's kind of like
the
going back to what you
surface.
said. I think everything that you've mentioned works together, right? So it's like the
Hmm.
intentionality of adding those, not just for the sake of adding details. Like if they're helping to read the form and understand, oh, this is more like a shell type of
Yeah.
skin, then you add it. Then otherwise, there's no need.
Yeah. Because there oftentimes I would just like, I would spend maybe 2-3 days like in tertiary or surface detail mode. I'm like, I zoom out and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to smoothen everything out again, because
Yeah, yeah,
it's
it
everything
happens to
has to.
me.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like the intentionality of it has to have a reason.
Mhm.
Has to for me, but again, it all depends on time and patience. But it's a worthwhile endeavor or goal to have that as my mark, right?
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
So, all right. So, if I would like for everyone to kind of try to at least remember some of that, because we're gonna pause on that stuff and then come back to it later on. So,
Do you want maybe
kind
some questions in between?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do that. Any questions on the slides?
There's just there we go. This question I can answer this one as well.
Hmm.
Um, so the question was, is the Geo brush named after Geo? And the answer is yes. That's exactly what I built that brush for, because I've been a fan of Geo's work for a long time, and just the fact that how he makes everything believable, regardless of how creepy or how unbelievable the creature is. And it comes down to that sort of relationship of the shape. So with the GeoBrush, I try to emulate to the best of my ability that sort of obviously it comes down to how you apply that brush, but it just sort of helps to sharpen some of those details and be intentional with where are the crevices and the cuts that you want to create. That's why I call it the GeoBrush. But yeah, it is in honor to the
Uh,
great Geo.
and you've done such a great job that you made things easy for me. Like one stroke, I'm like, oh man,
Done.
It's done. And yeah, I mean, you know this, Pablo. I was so honored when you showed me that. So thank you for that.
No,
And
no, no worries.
I keep hearing a lot of people who are very appreciative of it, thanking me. I'm like, no, thank Pablo. I had no, I just me by name. And,
Thank you for the inspiration too.
yeah, and the
Um,
inspiration.
we do have another
Mhm.
another cool question here from Stratateria. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Can you see
Oh
the
no,
question?
sorry, because I had my
Oh,
thing
that's all right.
on.
I'll just say it. So,
I'll
hi.
actually minimize. Mhm.
What makes a creature feel like it truly exists to you?
Whoa.
Is there a golden balance between stylized anatomy and keeping it believable, or do you mostly draw inspiration from nature?
What keeps it? Sorry, I was busy.
That's all right. Like what makes it basically what makes it feel that it truly exists? That how can you make a creature believable? Do you
Mhm.
rely on inspiration from nature so that whatever you create is it has that sort of visual anchor point that people can relate to? I guess that's kind of like paraphrasing a bit of the
Yeah,
question.
I think for me, for sure, it's taking from nature
Mhm,
and Stateria has shown me a lot of and has shared a lot of like interesting animal video. Like I always look at accounts with fascinating animals, or again,
mhm,
just like say the orange peel, right? If I put that exact configuration on a creature,
yeah.
subconsciously you're like, that's so familiar. I don't know why, but I also want to like eat it. No, maybe not.
No, 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 I
As
get what you
there's a
mean.
sense of
Yeah.
familiarity, and I think a lot of successful creature designs and designs really are rooted in nature.
Mhm,
And then if you add a good ratio of imaginative and fantastical, I think that is the right balance. You're kind of drawing from maybe abstract graphic design, for example, and then you add like
mhm,
some of the more like relatable stuff that you see from day to day.
mhm.
Immediately for me, that's like, oh wow, that's awesome. If I see someone do that, I'm like, I'm so drawn to it. Yeah.
Yeah, right, and that's kinda like also what grounds the design a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Mhm,
yeah, that's a great word, like grounding the design, right? You want it to
mm.
kind of feel familiar, because if it's too out there, then yeah, it's cool, but like there's no sense of, there's no none of
Kind of
that tick.
reference. Yeah,
Yeah, there's none of that tickle that kind of like,
yeah.
oh, there's just something here that's really, I don't know what makes me want to look at this, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
On just on that note, before you continue, that it's funny that you use that orange peel or that orange image as your reference
Mhm.
for this type of stuff because I do the same thing. And in fact, I have. I'll get Brandon to share it just see if you guys are interested. I have this
Mm.
thing called the 7 steps to getting started with ZBrush. It's a
Mm.
free PDF, basically a free kind of like webinar course. And the whole point is creating an orange. It could be anything. I just use
Ah,
an orange. That's what I found it
yeah.
kind of like an interesting there because um, you look at an orange, it's like, oh, I can just make that in 3D. It's just a sphere,
Hmm.
but not really. There's a lot of things going on. So when you
Yeah.
dig deeper, you start to realize, okay, I can do all of these bumps and all these surface noise by hand, and then
Mhm.
the whole point of that thing that is the 7 steps to getting started with ZBrush is to understand that it's not just a sphere. There's a lot more things going on when you kind of like train your eye and observe those details and how to apply them. Anyway, it's just like a, a side note, and I thought it was really interesting that you had it there as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, an orange has its own primary, secondary, and tertiary, right? Like if
Exactly. Yeah.
like or potatoes. I love potatoes because they're like mini muscular forms in itself.
Faces.
Yeah. But yeah, no, exactly as you said.
Mhm.
So um, Any more questions, or should I kind of go through the?
I reckon just go through it, just because
Okay.
I don't want to stop you too much and
Okay.
remove you from the train of thought. And maybe when you get into the actual demo, I'll fire you
Yeah. Yeah.
some questions.
I'll let you control that. If if there's a relevant question, just ask me, and I'll pause to answer.
Awesome.
So okay, for this part, I wanted to switch gears and really kind of go. I wanted to show or share my process of because I've been asked this before many times of like, well, how do you come up with ideas and you know obviously do them in 3D, but the inception of the ideas usually mostly I would say just starts off with a 2D sketch. Used to be my favorite leather bound sketchbook, but ever since I've gotten my fancy iPad Pro,
Right.
I've been using Adobe Fresco for sketching. Just taking it. This is obviously the desktop, but everything you see here is done in the iPad version. So again, when you said deep sea creatures, I started like thinking, okay, well, what can I do? So just started sketching some ideas, and I started off with these, but I figured, these are a bit too maybe sci-fi and I can never say it, anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that 3 times. I can't even say it once. It's like they would
Human-like.
belong. Yeah, human-like, bipedal.
Yeah, yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of like what you'd see.
Man, trust me, I have a lot of those, backup words when I cannot pronounce something.
Yeah,
I'll just go, yeah,
I
something
know,
that looks like this.
or like the anatomical names like the sternocleidomastoid. So
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah. So sorry. Continue.
yeah. But yeah, these look like they could be in Aquaman's kingdom, which I'm like, I'm not really as interested in, given the
Mhm.
time as well. But I really wanted to, start talking about like dynamic shapes, and so a lot of these are like, well, it's not as interesting. They're like hard shelled, um, and then so I was like, okay, keep exploring, and then so I started thinking, oh, maybe what if they're more kind of disembodied heads, kind of like just
Right.
floating, a little bit more alien, perhaps. When I would normally put bodies here, I'm like, it'd be cool if they're just like floating heads that like a marine creature, just
Mhm.
kind of like floating down there that you see like at the very depths. Maybe they're even like bioluminescent or something.
Yeah,
So I'm
nice.
like, okay, well, yeah, I'm kind of more vibing with the organic side of things, and so exploring maybe like we were talking about, maybe rooting it more in reality. Like, okay, adding
Mhm.
maybe before I was like too way up there, like adding more like familiar things, like say a starfish. What if it's like like we have the giant squid, the mythological, but not really, like because they
Right.
found some giant squid. What if there's a big giant starfish the size of like maybe not quite the Titanic, but that would be kaiju level, but
Yeah,
like a
casual level. Yeah, yeah.
big whale sized kind of starfish, and it'd be pretty interesting to start doing some animated shapes on this. I'm already kind of like thinking, okay, animated
Mhm.
shapes, like how do these things move? Even if I wasn't going to animate the shapes, like I'm always thinking about like the function of the forms, like
Right.
how do they move, and just in
Mhm.
general. um I don't know what these two. Sometimes they draw things that
Gliding.
are like, I don't
Glide.
know where that came
Yeah.
from, really.
Um,
But
but that's cool. This is a question of my own, actually.
Mhm.
By the way, guys, keep bringing the questions. We'll bring them at some point when it's relevant. Put them in the chat. But this is my question. Like, when you talk about thinking about the form and how things move and how you can animate those things
Mhm.
ahead of time, I think personally, this is what I also think to help me justify the design choices that I'll make.
Mhm.
So if I have like a bunch of like really big tentacles, but there's no supportive membranes or supportive tendons or something to make them move,
Yeah.
then I will add that as a way to, okay, I can justify having these weird looking tentacles if I adjust the design for that. So you think ahead of time in those terms, as in, if I'm gonna move this, I need to make sure that the design reflects that possibility of movement. Is that how you treat the functionality?
Yeah, yes and no. Like for the most part, like I also don't want to overthink things, especially at this point. Like
Okay.
when I think about like how it moves, it's more of a feeling of how it's going to move, right? Like I don't
Right.
want to be like, oh man, this could be like the scapula and the sternocleido connecting to the blah, 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 like
Right. Right.
it's more of a feeling. Like for this starfish, for example, like I wanted the feeling of like, say, maybe obviously from the center core
Hmm.
radial kind of contraction, maybe when it's
Right.
kind of moving, like the feeling of when you move your fingers and then on
Hmm.
the pro, I guess, gosh, I don't know the anatomy names anymore. The tendons on top of your arms, how
Yeah.
that
The
they
extensors and
dance when you move your fingers. I
right.
kind of want to have that feeling here, right? Like
Okay.
I think that'd be pretty cool. And then the muscle flexations and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, uh, how do I come up with such cool and unique designs? Well, hopefully I'll give some insight on that one. It's one of the questions. But yeah, so from this one, I'm like, okay, well, then I drew this little tiny thing. I'm like, oh, this is an interesting shape. So I don't know, maybe that was from a hammerhead mixed with a squid, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna draw something that immediately came to my mind when I did that, and so I did this thing, which is
Oh, nice.
I'm like, okay, well, I did sort of a little sketch of it. I'm like, okay, let's just flesh this out a little bit more. And this is sort of like a mixture of, I would say maybe like a hammerhead with a giant squid, of
Hmm.
course, with an eel, eel tail. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm liking this idea of like rooting it in sort of like something familiar. Maybe
Hmm.
this is sort of like a creature, a mythological creature that sailors. I kind of like posted it on my IG stories, like sailors would talk about, like would kind of like they see kind of like a giant squid, but it kind of dwelled in the very depths of the
Hmm.
ocean, its size of a whale, maybe like a blue whale. So kind of playing around with that idea and also kind of wanting to keep it simple. Like that
Hmm.
was an impetus that I set to myself, where I want to keep this like right down to like very limited amount of primary shapes, like 1, 2, 3, tail, body, and this, or 4 or 5, maybe, let's say,
Hmm.
rather than like going overly complex, because that's an exercise I always go through, is like really design something as minimal as with shapes as you can, and what would you come up with that, right? So
Hmm.
and so I was like, okay, well, let's it's grounded in reality, it could exist. And then I'm like, that's kind of boring, maybe let's add some horror elements, like Lovecraft.
Here we go.
There we go. Lovecraft at the Mountains of Madness, Shogoth,
Hmm.
Cthulhu. What if there's certain elements of weirdness in there, because kind of like what we were talking about before, how do I, what is to me like the a successful design that feels natural? It's when you start mixing those things of like the familiar, and maybe familiar that may not even fit. In this case, like
Right.
molar, like I'm like, what if this had like human molars for its teeth, like in
Yeah. Yeah.
configuration, right? Because I've seen fish with human like teeth before, even like rows inside of the teeth. I'm like,
Right.
what would it look like if this was sort of
Or
like
rodent.
yeah, kind of like a rodent, or just sort of like human molars, right? Just kind of
Hmm.
like just something you wouldn't expect, because at first I was like, okay, I want a beak like a squid,
Yep.
and so I was like, okay, well, maybe it'd be cool if the bifurcated tail kind of came together, or the tentacles was really a bifurcated tail, like there's a
Right.
split in the middle, and they come together when it's actually swimming, right? So and all that kind of just comes out of things like when I first did the previous image. I was like,
Hmm.
I already have two tentacles there. What if they come together as a tail? What would that look like? So that it just kind of like builds up from there, right? These
Yeah. Evolves
ideas.
from the
Yeah,
iteration process.
and then I'm like, okay, from that, then what if when the tail's closed, what if it actually swam vertically, like a shark, right? And then
Hmm.
the eyes kind of rotated upwards, and this it's like a transformer, really.
Right, right.
Right? It's like it could swim like a fish, so molar fish, but when it's going to attack, it's actually vertical, right?
Hmm.
So it's kind of like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
just keep
crazy.
sketching. So like this is it'll look like, if you looked at it from, if you're diving that far
Right,
deep, if you can even, you see this thing, it's like, oh, hey, it's like kind of weird looking fish, and then it's actually like a squid like thing that you can't really pinpoint what it is, because
right.
it can actually transform, right?
And that works perfectly fine with the creatures of the deep, right? Like
Yeah,
there's no real relative up and down, sideways. It could
exactly.
be moving. Yeah, that's nice.
Hey, I didn't even think of that, but I'm gonna add that onto the. Yes, I got that covered. No, yeah, no, but
Yeah,
that's perfect.
perfect.
Like the Millennium Falcon. There's really no up and down, right? Like it's
Right.
or space. Like the way it's
Hmm.
shaped, like it could go either way. And so, yeah, same thing with this. Yeah, these are just sort of like more explorations. But
Hmm.
so I ended up with essentially this. So um, this is when it's front facing, like if it's vertical, like
Hmm.
like it's almost like an entity, just like
Standing, yeah, kind of.
standing, and then if you can imagine these fins kind of like moving, undulating in a
Yeah,
parabolic
yeah.
pattern, so it can control itself. That it's almost like alien like, right?
Hmm.
With the eyes kind of like rotated down. Then obviously when it's going to eat you, it's going to open,
Hmm.
and at the back is a like a little mini tentacle, but it's got a hook that kind of wraps around and brings the prey. Like if
Right,
imagine if there's an orca, and then the tentacles are actually the fins can actually act as fingers with hooks, and then that
right.
can kind of like further like a hand that grabs and curls
Hmm.
the victim or the prey towards
Like
the
spines
mouth.
that
Mhm.
extend outside of the fin.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like retracts, and then kind of just like brings it in.
Hmm.
And then when it's swimming, obviously it's more like shark like, horizontally. This is what you
Right.
see on top, from the top, with the eyes kind of front facing
Hmm.
from the top. So, any questions?
Crazy.
Because we're gonna move on to
I think
ZBrush
most
now.
people are just like, this is weird, man.
This is, I
So
know.
cool. Very, very cool,
Uh,
man.
so that's
And I
that's
just
my
love
thought
the whole
process.
process, like the
Hmm.
whole iteration is just awesome to see, and it's also awesome to see that even someone like yourself that is so good at what you're doing, and
Oh,
can create all of this stuff that you let's say what you share online on Instagram is like almost, even if it's not the final version, it's almost there. Like most people will just go, oh, I want to be able to get to this level, right? But you still go through this sketching process, and they're not like super polished sketches, but it gives you that idea of, oh, this is how it moves. This is how I can imagine him attacking, and that opens up a huge amount of new ideas as you develop. And I think that's, to me, this is like the biggest takeaway, that even at the level that you are, you're still doing these things just to help you develop that idea and create your own unique design. And honestly, I think that's the most valuable thing,
mhm.
and of the process, really, and to create something that is truly unique, right? The more you iterate, the more uniqueness and more appeal you get out of it, I think.
Yeah, and the fastest way to iterate, I think, is through just, like for me, it's sketch. And I'm not like, I'm no like Carlos Swante, or like a lot of the amazing 2D artists. It's just, for me, it's a means to get to building it in 3D. Like I would never like show these sketches online and go, hey, I'm a creature designer
Right.
2D. Like
Right, right.
these are like nothing compared to like what others are doing. But this, if you notice, like I'm already like even here plotting the big shapes, right? Like the
Yeah,
primary
yeah.
shapes, like in almost annotated
Mhm.
form. Like that's a cylinder, that's a like, what do you call it? Elliptical sphere, um, tentacle for tapered
Mhm.
cylinder, blah blah blah. So yeah, and then whatever the mouth is there. Anyway, so let's move on to ZBrush now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Just a quick question regarding the fresco. You don't have to
Mhm.
go back. Just the reason why you chose fresco. Is it like
Mhm.
I don't know? Just do you have like specific things that you find more useful? That tools that are more polished? Like this is more like a practical question.
Yeah, because I love the feel of the brushes. They're so
Okay.
naturalistic, and I like to animate too. Like I've been exploring animation, and it's got animation tools.
All
Uh,
right.
so it just makes sense that and there's
Stay
also
within
like
the ecosystem.
vector shapes. Yeah, like vector shape. You could paint in vectors. So I'm also like
Hmm.
illustrate. There's a lot of things I'm really into Illustrator, and so it all just kind of like folds into Fresco. You could open up a
Nice.
Fresco file in Photoshop. So, but most of
And
all,
it
it's the feel of the brushes
right.
is amazing. Yeah,
And it's free, right?
yeah, it's free.
Awesome.
So that's a big thing too. I mean, obviously, I work here, so it's already
Hmm.
free. But like for people out there, that I like to suggest it because it is that
Hmm.
it's free. So and
Awesome.
it's brilliant. So
Hmm.
but like again, it's a means to get to this, right? Like so we're now in
Right.
ZBrush. So first, since I went through the whole spiel of like my thought process of the mechanics of this thing, I wanted to show you sort of how all that plays into 3D, and then we'll start going into sort of more of the sculpting and shape theories and all that stuff,
Right.
hands-on sculpting. Um,
Hmm.
so so yeah, and this is I would consider this to be more of like a concept mesh than a finished
Hmm.
model, obviously. But so this is the molar fish in sort of like say vertical, horizontal, you know, mode,
Hmm.
kind of like more of a classic fish. So it's using these fins to kind of move forward. But then when it chooses to be upright, um, I've already made and animated some shapes here.
Oh, awesome.
So, let's see.
Uh,
So and that's the fun thing about ZBrush is you can really just have fun with a lot of the blend shapes, right?
hmm.
Or layers and animate them in the timeline, which is essentially that's the only thing I'm doing here is just animating the layers, the
Hmm.
on and off states on the timeline. And that's what remember what we were talking about with the how it moves, right? The
Right.
like the design of the sketch. It's like, okay, I'm already thinking like when I want the eye to kind of rotate down, I want it to look like pretty muscular, like there's some stuff going on in there underneath.
Yeah,
And
that's
then at the
awesome, man.
back, I wanted it to be the opposite of the top,
Hmm.
where it's a little bit more like the cartilage, the
Right.
and I didn't really get around to like working on the back as much, but I wanted the back to be a little bit more skeletal, like you could see the
Yeah. Yeah.
like just for contrast, right? Like the kind of scaffolding where all these muscles kind of like rest on top of.
Yeah. Right. That's awesome, man. That's also like when I'm doing my creatures as well. I also think that in terms of like if I were to cook this creature and eat it, what is the more meaty part that I will eat, and what's the cartilage that I will just you know
So, this right here, since it's not very
yeah, that's
muscular,
like
would
a
be
nice cut.
the pork belly right
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Very
the
cool.
blubber, whatever's in there.
Hmm.
And then so when it's about to consume you, yeah, like kind of just like, I love adding just like kind of like the just stuff underneath, right? So just adding all
Right.
that stuff. So and then the mouth
The
opening.
subtleties.
So again, working at like kind of like okay, I mean it's a little ended up being a little gross, but
It's
if you can
very,
stand looking
it's
at this,
very deserving.
so like just kind of in terms of the creative thinking, right? Like
Hmm.
okay, as the mouth is going in there, I'm thinking there's some structure that constricts in there to kind of like push the mouth out, right?
Right.
In there. So just kind of, and then the back, the tail kind of lifts
And do
up.
you have like teeth on the tentacles inside, or those are more like suckers?
These are all teeth. These are all molars. Yeah, I never got around to finishing it, but these are, if you could imagine, these are all like
Yeah.
sharp molars. Yeah. So hold on, what is this? Yeah. So the tail kind of like, you know, opens up this way.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's, and then, you know, that's kind of like working the design like this in 3D, kind of in what I have in fresco in my head, and then obviously adding on to it. But how did I get here? You know, so let's go ahead and
Yeah, that's the question everyone
actually,
I think is saying, "Oh, I didn't know you could animate in ZBrush."
yeah. I'm saying, oof, this is so sick. I'm sure sick, not in a good, you know, like it's literally sick.
Yeah, good, good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, kind of that's the thing about like deriving from nature. It's like, oh man, yeah, it's forms, right? And then it could look
Mhm,
familiar and all that stuff. So, uh, but so when I'm actually constructing things, and
mhm,
this stems from my time with Modeler, as you know, Pablo, right? Like the
mhm,
layer system. You know, you've been
mhm,
doing it too. Where what was great about Modeler was, you know, you can construct things in different layers and merge them. And so I've taken that process on and to see what I could do in ZBrush. And so,
mhm,
you know, for the purpose of time, I've already kind of like pre-composed some of the primary shapes. You know, that's just nothing but like a sphere with, you know, kind of more cylinders here on top for the eyes. And I also like to have a representation of a person in there,
mhm.
just for scale, so that it's a mental reminder of the you know, once we get down to the tertiaries, like what type of scale, not literally scale, but the size of the details
Mhm.
will be, right?
Right.
So yeah, but let's hide that dude for now. So yeah, so for now, like, you know, kind of I've already kind of pre-constructed the main primary shapes here. And what I like to do is literally I just duplicated this. These
Mhm.
are all like I combined them in one subtool, and I duplicated this. Oops.
Do you work on separate subtools as you block it out and then just combine it?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm,
So, and then, you know, once everything's there, I just combine it, and then what I
mhm.
do is, to save time, you know, I just literally duplicated that thing versus like, oh, create a subtool or create a
Right.
new sphere. I just duplicated it so I could, you know what? I'm just gonna do it from scratch. So I'm gonna duplicate that subtool, which is what I now have, and I'm just gonna like extend it a little because I want to start exploring what could be on the top part here, right?
Mhm.
So
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
right, because what I'm after really is the intersections. Like when I'm starting to think about like design elements, and this is gonna look different from the previous
Mhm.
creature. Like it'll be its own thing. So I'm kind of like, okay, you know, versus like, oh, I'm gonna recreate that exact sphere. At least it's already like following the silhouette,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of there. Okay, what could we add here? Like just some patterns, and then on the tail, you know, kind of like lift it up a little, clay buildup, or the GeoBrush, right? Because then you're already creating like that's a like I love it when, you know, there's like this stark definition
Mhm.
between the surfaces, because if not, you know, everything kind of feels a little soft. But
Yeah.
here I'm able to kind of like compose with, you know, these clear graphic shapes, right? Like I'm like kind of just
Mhm.
using the GeoBrush right now to kind of like maybe like, you know, do
Sharpen things a
that.
bit.
Yeah. So maybe let's make this into a little bit more like a Giger alien thing.
Right. And also
And
it comes down to what you said before about the intentionality, because when you're doing these things, when you push or pull things, you have to be intentional, right? Like
yeah,
it's like, well, am I gonna leave this here, or I'm just going to smooth it out completely?
exactly. Like, and you have the choice to kind of adjust from there, right? Like, say
Hmm.
what I did here, I'm like, I don't really like that. Yeah, turkey. I was thinking, sorry, someone said that. Like, I was thinking chicken, like a
Right.
headless chicken. I was like, oh man, it's looking very uh, food like. Yeah,
Chicken
so
like.
yeah, right. Like, so I'm kind of okay. Well, that's kind of interesting.
Hmm.
And so just kind of start adding more forms here, and then I'm already kind of like just working with the top and bottom surfaces, sort of like you know alt shifting to kind of like start. Yeah, so say something like this,
Hmm.
and I'm going to do a merge now. So I'm going to merge down, and then from here I'm going to duplicate this, and I'll do a Dynamesh. So these would be probably, say, the secondary shapes, right?
Hmm.
So I'll do a Dynamesh. So everything is, where's Dynamesh? A little bit higher. Did that do it? Yeah. So Dynamesh, and then let's Z remesh this, maybe a little
And
bit higher.
here's
Mhm.
another question I think would be interesting for some. Do you work at these, let's say, current pose that is almost like an in between, let's say, open and close in this case, so that you can, let's say, push those shapes and like the tendons and accentuate them when they're open and then smooth them out when they're closed later on in the animation? So kind of like a like the
Oh,
way
I
that
see.
you will pose a character in a T pose or A pose, so that you can go full flex and full extension.
Yeah,
So you work in between, right?
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so you have room to go, for a place to go, right? Like,
Exactly, yeah.
oh, I thought I Dynameshed this. I don't know why. Huh? Wait, that doesn't look right. Hold on. What is going on here? Oh, you know what? I should have scrolled up here. What is going on? Did I not merge it?
Nah, I don't think
Oh,
you
okay.
can.
So I'll merge. Sorry, y'all. I know
You
it's a
you can
little
also merge visible and create a
merge
new tool.
visible. Yeah. Ah. Well, anyway,
I always do that when when I cannot when I have like lots of tools and I just go, oh yeah, I just wanna whatever I see, let's merge
just
visible, and then
merge
I
it.
just deal with that in a separate tool. That's it.
Oh, let's just be messy. Okay, this one. That should be good. Let's soften it a little bit. I'm
Yeah,
not even going
nice.
to reproject it. I'll just do Z remesh and then work from there.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, okay, what could we do? Maybe a little bit higher, just so we get more flow. There's
And
some
you use the
interesting
zero measure.
things. Hmm.
Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna ask. You use the zero measure also as a sketching tool at this point. Like it's not gonna be
Yeah,
the final topology, just something to work with cleaner shapes and have smoother surfaces, right?
exactly. So I didn't even like bother reprojecting it to
Right.
the original. I've gotten the impression of a lot of the shapes that are already there. So I now have my subdiv history that I could go up and down,
Mhm.
uh, and work that way. So it's now time to kind of. I'm thinking, okay, it'd be cool to do like a whale, like in terms of not quite an orca, but more of a sort of like a blue whale or maybe like a giant eel. That kind of vibe of like the skin, like it's very you can see the muscle forms underneath, and then the skin may
Right.
be a little on the thinner side, I'm thinking. So that's the mental image I have in mind.
Right.
So I'm like, at this point, let's just have a go at it. I switch my Z intensity in clay buildup to very low, and I'll just kind of go a little, start fusing the shapes here, kind of, how, and I'm already kind of like, okay, well, when I'm doing this, and this is why I love clay buildup, because a lot of these artifacts that I'm doing here, when I smooth them out, it already provides like a naturalistic,
Right.
kind of
Yeah, you can
like
capitalize
these,
on the stuff that it leaves behind.
yeah, exactly. You could just like kind of get a sense of what the flow of it, and the way I'm doing it is, making sure that I'm not being very mechanical about my strokes. I'm kind of
Yeah.
getting a sense of like where the rhythm of the design is, of where those primary shapes are, right? So I'm like here, and I'm just gonna kind of go on hyper mode here, like hyperdrive mode, and kind of like just go, let's just make this look like a naturalistic creature, right? So I'm adding these muscle forms. I'm kind of like looking at the silhouette, using clay buildup as almost like a way to cut through. And then what I like to do as well is go to the lowest subdivision, because I'm always constantly looking at the silhouette, and using smooth in, the lowest subdivision to really play around instead of using move. Sometimes smooth may actually be better, because I'm like kind of just want to get a nice curvature in there, right? So I'm kind of like already thinking about the tension. And then I kind of did this thing in the middle here, like what could that be? Kind of
some kind of sternen.
Yeah, sort of like someone mentioned turkey, so maybe it's like a
Have you do you use the smooth peaks, for example, in this?
Oh yeah, we'll use that later for so the tertiary stuff. I love using that. Like say when I'm doing like a series of wrinkles,
Right. Yeah.
And then I'm just like essentially just following through, like, kind of not trying not to get stuck on one area. Like maybe here there's some kind of spine thing, then I love repeated
the
patterns as well. Yeah, kind of like so maybe there's a repeated pattern there. And then this is where we can get a little bit anatomical, my go-to brush, the ZBrush, kind of like and there's maybe like a cool ridge here, kind of like the spine of an eel,
right?
But maybe there's like little I love doing this, like little nodules, like,
and that
chicken
could provide
flaps.
the structure when it closes down.
Yeah. Like maybe that kind of just
Yep. I do that all the time as well. When I'm designing, I just do like the sound effects for myself, like pew pew.
Yeah. Or when I'm it does. When I'm doing face shapes, I always end up doing the face shapes in my head. Like I'm like the expressions, and so I'm thinking, okay, well, this is, there may be a little bit of indication of like lines going this way, because this is perhaps like, like when it lifts up, there's like history lines there, right? Like
some memory folds there.
Yeah, some memory folds, which again, I mean, not to keep mentioning the ZBrush, remember, look at this. You've saved my my time doing 3D by a lot. Right? So
I'm glad that you like it.
So maybe like, just some weird, like, it's now playtime, right? Maybe there's like a membrane here, some architecture of a membrane, start doing mask.
Oh yeah, that's another thing I was gonna ask. Like in terms of the other basic tools that you use, and the reason I'm asking this while you do that is because sometimes people get a bit confused as to, they see like a really cool piece of work or some sculpt, and then they think that you need to use all these complicated brushes and techniques. But if you just keep it simple and then do the work, like your
Yeah.
tool set is pretty limited, right? Like when you have you haven't used more than 5 brushes, if anything. Um, so when it comes to other really important tools, what I would say, like the selection brushes or the masking brushes, how do you incorporate that into your limited tool set when you're working on this stuff?
Um, full disclosure, I actually only really use a few tools, and like people always ask, like, "Oh, how do you do this in ZBrush?" I'm like, I'm not really like the tools that I use are like the most minimal. I mean, yeah,
Mhm,
I know how to use some of the more like technical stuff, but like a lot of the stuff that I do is just like it's pencil to paper, right? Like you don't need
mhm,
anything fancy. That's why like whenever like people learning in 3D or students, they ask me like, "Oh, what are the tools you use?" And they always get surprised when I tell them like I'm only just like ever really using like, at the most, okay, clay buildup, GeoBrush, damn standard, still use that, move tool, H polish, and flake. The tools
mhm,
here are my go-to tools, and that's it.
mhm.
Because that is essentially like it keeps me focused in terms of okay, the move tool, that's hand to clay, right? Just hand to
Right,
clay. The geo soft forms, that's like
the cutter.
the cutter. Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
the cutter and damn standard as well. Clay buildup is like form. That's my foundational form building.
Mhm.
Um, like kind of like my hand tries to keep up with my imagination kind of tool. What am I doing here? I don't really know, but I'm letting clay buildup do it. Like I'm kind of
Right,
like
right.
it's just
So
kind of
so
like
very, very
hypnotized.
traditional sculptural references as well.
Yeah.
Mhm,
So, and for me, that's all I've ever really needed throughout my career, right? Like I'm not one to kind of like go super deep in terms of like a software's set of technical features. Like I think for me, that is not worth my time in terms
mhm,
of artistic growth. I'd rather kind of like learn any tool that will serve my foundational um,
mhm.
art, right? And that's
Right.
usually hands-on tools. So
And the
um,
great thing as well is that you could translate that knowledge easily between applications, right? Because
exactly, yeah,
it's a lot easier to find a move tool and a clay buildup in another app than something more complex.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like and every sculpting app tool, maybe Nomad, Blender, what have you, will always have the tools that you know that are
Yeah,
foundational.
the
And
basic
so
ones.
then you're kind of like, oh, but I like the feel of this more and than this, right?
Mhm,
So okay, so and then when it comes to like say getting down into like the details of it, um, the I've kind of sketched in say the this area right here, right? So I'm like, okay, what do I have here? How can I start adding some
right.
detail to this? Like let's kind of make it a little bit more alien. But when I'm doing this, I'm still keeping in mind like the flow of things.
Mhm,
It's everything as much as I can has to flow, right? Like it's from top to bottom. There has to be
mhm.
some kind of like like I mean, I'm just gonna draw like from this to this to
Right.
this.
Yep.
Um, because I
This one
mean,
is like a bit of an abstract one as well. I mean, when you I guess I understand what you're saying about the flow, and it's I think it's super important as well. And when I teach, let's say on the Extra Mile, the course that I have online, and I talk about the flow, sometimes people go like, "Well, this is great that you're telling me about the flow, but why? Like, how do I know that I'm doing the right flow?" And one of the things that I found practically useful is to think in terms of the hierarchy of forms and balance, so that like what you're doing right now, like if you put it everywhere, then it disrupts that flow because your eyes don't know how to follow the next shape. is
yeah,
that is that how like you envision the flow of shapes? Is that like the continuity of one line into the next?
Yeah, continuity of the one line to the next. But a lot of it for me is feeling, right? Like
Right.
it's like, does it feel right? So like, because flow is all about like rhythm and all that stuff. It
Hmm.
has to lead your eye, but at the end of it, like you're relying on your definition of uh, what all that is, and that's, I think that could be like very personal to a person in terms of, or
Hmm.
very specific, I should say, right? Like
Right.
what I would consider to be flow may be different from, and that's what makes all our artworks unique, right?
Right.
Like right now, what am I doing here? I don't really know, but it's like it's
It has flow.
yeah, I'm flowing. Like I did this, I'm like, okay, like it's just by the nature of flow. I'm
Hmm.
like leading that back into, I'm like kind of like, okay, doing this and then smoothing it, because it's all
Right.
skin, right? Like
Hmm.
everything's related. Like there's always gonna be interaction from one, like say this to this
Yep.
to this, and then from there start adding those water balloons, right? Where's the body? Let's just be more explicit in drawing here. Okay,
Hmm.
how does that maybe kind of
Connects.
the head is shooting underneath here, and then there's another water balloon on top, right?
Right.
And
And I
so
think a lot of what you're talking about also comes with the experience, right? Like you just need to do it multiple times
yeah.
and train your eye in different ways. So I guess like when I talk about these things, I try to think, I put myself in the position of someone that maybe doesn't have that experience,
Hmm.
and it's like, what can I tell that person to kind of like understand what I'm saying when I refer to this is my version of the flow, or this is the hierarchy of shapes,
Hmm.
so that they can, through iteration and through what you've been talking about, like creating stuff and having the experience of doing things, realize that, oh, now I understand maybe why this is not ideal. Like, why would I in
Hmm.
practical terms, basically, on what you're showing is, why would you create like uh, an intersection or a line that is perpendicular to one of those faults, right?
Hmm.
That could disrupt that flow. So, but I guess my point is, after you do this multiple times, you're gonna get you're gonna get better at being your own judge of your work, like self-judging your art.
Yeah.
I think it comes with experience, right? It's not like you do something, it's like, oh yeah, I feel this is right. The next time that you do it, you're gonna be, maybe, I have more references, I have more things, and that'll be that'll
Hmm.
be your reference point.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It boils down to that, right? Like the mileage you put into this,
Mm,
because flow may not come until a certain point in someone's art journey where they have put in the amount of hours that they need to be able to just not listen to. There's always that aspect of like, oh, that head, the voice in your head, that judgment, like, oh, this is
mm,
too blah blah blah. I'm like, I've learned to just kind of, and this is just through, maybe age or just the amount of times I've been doing this. I'm at a luxurious phase in my journey where I just kind of like am able to kind of just trust that what I'm doing
yeah.
is right.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, this is of course in the context of personal work. Professional work, that's a different story. um like at the end of the day, if is this my definition of what what looks good, and if it
Hmm.
is, if I'm happy with it, if I feel, and counter to that, I'm also my worst critic,
Critique.
right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think being able to deal with that just comes from like the experience. Like you're able to just
Hmm.
kind of like, oh, flow with it. Because when if someone asks me like, Gio, what is, if you could distill your process, what is it? It's, and I think it would be like, it's a process of feeling my way through it, right?
Right. Yeah.
That
Trusting the process.
trusting the process. I try not to be too intellectual with
Hmm.
things. I'm always just what my gut tells me. Like right now, the way my hands moving on this, like it's almost like a part of my brain's not even thinking about it, but I'm very sure that there's a part of my brain that is fully aware of what it is I'm doing, but I'm able to kind of detach from it.
Right. But
And
it's
just
also
kind of
because you've done
trust.
it so many times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of like repetition, right? You're kind of just like
Right.
doing this. And so I think that's a good place to be in. And I think that's but that's what works for me. And maybe, I think about this too. It's like maybe we're all different. Like how another kind of approaches things may be a different process that may never work for them. Maybe
Mm.
they're more analytical and have to abide by sort of like a set of rules
Mhm.
that they go with, and that's perfectly fine as well, right? So,
Right, yeah, and I think
but
it's also
mhm.
true what you said about the, it's almost like that's your style, right? Like, the more you do it, the more you lean towards that sort of flow and what you decide is a good shape to you, what works for you, and that come across maybe as this is your style, right? Like, this very
Yeah,
cool and this is honestly, this is why I build that GeoBrush, right? Because I can see that sort of cool hierarchy of shapes and how everything with the balloon idea interconnects in all of your pieces, right?
yeah,
So that was that was my takeaway. Like that's Gio's style almost. How can I put it into a brush like that?
yeah. Like look at this. That's like you've done that work for sure. Like the
I'll give you another tip. You know that the Gio brush has a double action as well.
what? No, I didn't even know that. What?
Yeah, I'll show you if we have time because we already, by the way, we
Okay.
are
Oh man,
with
we're at
1 March.
7:24. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, y'all.
All good,
I
all
think we
good.
can end it unless there's questions.
Oh no, I mean, maybe do you wanna perhaps show a little bit of the how do you animate it, or like what's the
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
actual process?
yeah. Okay, so let's pick a
And in the meantime, guys, if you have any questions, this is the time.
yeah.
We'll put it in the chat and we'll bring them up and ask you.
So let me just actually let's use our friend here. Um, so do you want to see me how I just animate it or how I create a shape from scratch, for example?
Oh, whatever you feel like. I
Okay.
think it would just be to understand like
Mhm.
what you do, right?
Yeah. All right. So I could, I might as well kind of like do a shape from scratch.
Sure.
So essentially, let me duplicate this really quick, and then I'll collapse all of the layers that I have. Um, so is it bake all? I guess
Yeah.
just to get rid of
That's
it. Yeah.
just make sure that you don't have anything recording, but all good. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a shapeless character.
Hmm.
And so first thing I like to do is to store the morph target, right? It just ZBrush remembers the state that it becomes important later on, but
Hmm.
so we just want to capture the default state right now.
Hmm.
And then in layers, I'm going to create one layer. So right now I'm just not even thinking about animation. I'm just like thinking about, okay, like what could we say maybe
Move.
like, yeah, just kind of like add some flex shapes here, right? So I'm going to create a layer. It's now recorded. And what I like to do, I'm already seeing kind of like a configuration of shapes
Hmm.
here. What I like to do is I like to just smooth everything out like a blank canvas.
Right.
And then with a move tool, I try to kind of like think up of if you think of primary, secondary, and tertiary, it applies in
Hmm.
shape making as well. Like what is the primary action of the
Right.
flex, let's say, right? So in this case, I don't know, let's make it up like say, if say this is one big water balloon pinned here and pinned here, and it
Hmm.
say it flexes this way, right? Like say let's mask this because I want this water balloon to go underneath this water balloon when it's flexing.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna move in and then pull in, and it's kind of like
Right.
it's gonna kind of like, and I'm being tactical about how I do the move in that there's more motion here and then less as it goes here. Because like if it's all one uniform motion, then it just makes it look like it's rubber, right? You want to kind of get a
Mhm.
sense of variation when it comes to the movement. And
Right.
so
Oh,
like
it's amazing.
doing
Like I
this,
didn't even think that was like that much of a change. It's very
yeah.
subtle.
But I like to go overshoot it. So I'm like, okay, well, because again, if you think about it, right, everything is saran wrap. Like if you move something here, the movement isn't going to end here. It's going to carry all the way through at a big
Mhm.
radius, right? So I'm gonna just even nudge all this stuff here. And what happens when this is, and I got to think about the termination lines. What happens if there's motion being, if skin is stretching on between two
Mhm.
forms? Well, that termination line smoothens. So I'm gonna just smoothen that a little
Right.
bit, right? So let's see how that looks.
Nice.
Maybe that's a bit too much here. And this is where the morph target comes in handy, because if you go to morph brush here, you can blend back the, like, say, polyframe's nice because then I get to see the movement. Let's see. This is looking a bit too even here, so I'm gonna just kind of like with a morph brush, like revert it back to the original state here. So there's less movement here,
Mhm.
Um, okay, so
Very
there, and then
nice.
maybe let's add some mass to it here. And I'm still like in the primary stage here, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so now that I'm pretty happy with the primary way it's moving, let's add my secondary shapes now. So
Mhm.
ZBrush, what does it look like in default? So you have this. I'm just gonna totally like reconfigure that, and say, you had the form here. I'm gonna be like, what happens if, turn that on first, if we go this way? Whereas, the original division line is here. What if we go this way?
Right.
Smoothing it, like really, really subtle, right? Everything's like
Mhm.
almost like subsurface. And then maybe like there's a pinch here as it goes underneath. You're kind of like
Yeah.
playing with
Nice.
light. And then maybe a pinch here. Clay build up the thing. Maybe there's more tension here, because it's like flexing.
Oh, that's
Right?
really cool. Yeah.
So how do we animate that? Okay, so we start off at 0. And so the timeline here, if you want to find it, it's under movie, show timeline, right? That's going to bring up your timeline here. So what I haven't taught this before. Tomorrow is going to be more in depth, but yeah. So this is my first time actually teaching this. So okay, so shape is at 0. What we're doing is we're going to add keyframes to the visibility of
Mhm.
this particular layer, right? So layer is 0, so I'm going to add a keyframe there, and then I'm going to go over to, say, some frames here, like maybe here, and then I'm going to turn this on. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. How come that didn't? So frame 0, add that, move here, turn on the eyeball. Okay, there we go. So turn on the eyeball and then add your frame. Okay, so there's now 2 keyframes there. So
Mhm.
so now you get this. I hate it that ZBrush adds a keyframe on the camera when I don't want it to. So
You
you
can
have,
also just remove that if you want
oh, good.
from the
I'm
from
gonna
the
search.
yeah. I'll show you later.
So okay, now we have this like linear linear thing going on, right? Well, shapes tend to be a little bit more complex. So what I like to do is I like to go in between when it was 0 and 1 and create a new shape. And I really should be naming these shapes, but uh, ideally I would name it, but yeah, right now we're not going to name it. And then from here, let's add an extra like layer of the muscle dancing in between that we could, just again, when that whole thing, when you move your fingers, your upper arm dances, right? Like we want to get that sense. So let's like maybe again smoothen things. So I think the new shape was the angle was this way. What if it was somewhere in between? And then maybe like it cuts through, it subdivides that shape there. There's another like tendon that kicks in, right?
Right.
And again, like, so, I forgot to talk about abstract shapes, really, because, that's what I was doing when I was sculpting on the other, the other version we were working on with all the details. But what I'm doing right now is purely abstract shapes, is that I'm abstractifying what happens with this primer or this main shape here. Like what kind of configuration of shapes can I put there that would look interesting as graphic shapes, right? Or a series of water balloons that are, like maybe there's a strong kind of like thing that kicks in here, in this state. Again, like really choosing what tendons are activated. So what does that look like on top? Yeah, right. So you're getting that dancing now. So if that is at 1 in this frame, I'm going to add a keyframe there. And then I'm going to turn that off when this thing was at 1, right? Is that fully off? Whatever there. So off, on, and then off.
Right. So that gives you a non-linear transformation.
Exactly. And maybe like, because this is where the other shape is on or off. Like I'm staggering it. So it's not, so there's a sense of organic placement to the keyframes, right? So I'm going to see what that looks like when there's when that's off there. Right?
Very cool.
So you have all these dancing shapes on the surface, and that's how you animate those shapes, essentially. And this is something I'll touch on in more detail. The topic for tomorrow in our Discord, our channel. I have my first live stream with an awesome artist, Shasha, who will also be showing their work. But we're going to be touching on dynamic shapes, essentially, as it pertains to abstract forms and facial shapes. So
nice.
We're just gonna
so for those of you guys that were not here at the beginning, Gio is having another. How many live streams do you have this week? Like 5 or so. So tomorrow he's having a really cool one in their Discord, and yeah, he's gonna. Are you gonna talk about more in depth to like regarding these sort of shapes and transformation?
This kind of stuff, abstract shapes. I mean, honestly, I gotta figure out how to do that lecture tonight, and then by tomorrow I should be all good. But yeah, it's all going to be about this because I think as 3D artists or 3D people who work in ZBrush, we're often just used to kind of like building things in static, and so it really is a great exercise to start thinking of these as moving shapes. What more to do that than to actually animate them, right? So,
yeah, awesome.
That's my show.
Well, this is an information overload,
Sorry,
but really cool. I think it's like a big eye opener for a lot of people.
Whoa, sorry.
So are you happy to do a few more minutes of just like Q&A?
Yeah, I'm here until whenever y'all need me. I can answer questions. Maybe I'll leave it on the ZBrush yeah, I'm here to answer whatever questions. So
Cool. Let's get some questions for Gio.
should I just read through here? I could. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
maybe. I think Brandon will just
Oh, okay.
bring some of those to the chat, just so that we all know what you're replying. So it will just display on the screen. There we go. So can you see that, or do you want me to read it?
Oh, sorry. I have ZBrush because if I minimize ZBrush, we start to.
Yeah, no. Go back to ZBrush. I'll read it. It's easier.
Okay.
So how do you bring out textures that feel specifically oceanic? Oceanic. Is that how you say it? Oceanic.
Oceanic,
Alien
yeah.
or beast-like? Are there any certain patterns you always tend to use? That's from Strateria.
Strateria. Yeah. There's my go-to. I'm just gonna bake all of this. Get rid of the. I've got like a lot of kind of go-to patterns when it comes to like say for deep sea creatures. Again, I love eel anatomy. These sort of like kind of
Yeah, all the ridges that the skin have.
those ridges kind of, and then kind of like offsetting it with, and just kind of like going through and from top to bottom, just finding the flow, like finding these radiate lines where I could like radiate,
Right.
and then adding clay buildup to it. Hold on. With the direct, and this is where I like to put on my headphones, and kind of just like head to, and then maybe some of them are like more pimply, and sometimes I have like eel references of eel images, and then I smooth it, and then this is when I start doing the whole mask cavity, which I'm sure everyone knows about. I can never get it to work at the first, like there's always like, which one is it that it's like
it's a really nice one for that type of stuff.
Yeah, because from there, once we get a nice like, oh, here we go, we're getting closer, I think, or not. Hold on.
Becomes tricky when you have like so much resolution.
Let's see. Let's say
you're
even
with
that.
25 mil.
Oh, is that how much? Oh man, that's why.
Yeah, that's why it takes a while.
Like maybe we'll, you kind of start doing inflate,
right?
And then kind of just start adding sort of like the alpha. I love this one. Is it this one? Yeah. With a low intensity, just to kind of add that further like chaos to it, but not making sure to not disrupt the texture. So yeah, I do this for like a lot of my aquatic stuff, but if it's more like fish or kind of hard shelled, same deal. Like I just kind of like like say this is a shell, like kind of like doing this kind of stuff like a crab crustacean thing.
Right.
Everything, I mean, I think in a sense, like a lot of my textures may be stylized and not really 100% accurate because it's all like, may kind of be like a little similar, from creature to creature. That may not be specific, but it's almost like indicated detail is what I like to do versus going down to the sort of like specific of like, oh, that pore type has to be exactly,
but
if I need to do that for work, it's
your visual memory, like visual library of the shapes that you like and that you tend to always repeat. So if you look for anatomy of the eel, then that's something that one way or another, maybe subconsciously, you will bring into your creatures, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly based on the visual library of what I always look at. So
right, that's awesome.
Yeah. Any more
We have
questions?
a couple more questions, yeah.
Yeah. Of
But
course.
as you were doing that, just remind me of something that I might get a chance to show you. So Jorge Villar, he's asking, which books have helped Gio develop his sense of rhythm in sculpture the most? Can he name a few?
What books? Gosh. Well, I mean, I'm a student of Carlos, so I will always credit him, and
Mhm.
Monstruo, studying his works, studying, what he teaches me. Um, in terms of other books, for like the rhythm stuff, like, oh yeah, the Edward Lantieri. It's more like text heavy than anything. Like I remember getting a lot out of reading that, front to back, Edward
Mhm.
Lantieri's book, An Artist's Guide to Sculpture, I believe it was. The cover is essentially, I think, a hand, from what I recall, like two hands. He was Rodin's teacher, like Edward Lantieri. I think that's
Right.
foundational to anyone into sculpture to read. But I remember that book talking about rest points and rhythm and all that stuff. So it's been such a long time since I read it, but that one. But for the most part, again, like what we were talking about, I think my definition of like rhythm and all that stuff may be different from how you feel things, right?
Mhm.
In terms of your own work. So a lot of it, I would probably rely on your own taste and interest as well. Because I think I my visual library consists of things I always look at and am interested in, and that's what I
Mhm.
gravitate to. But for you, it may be different. So I would also trust and rely on your um, own set of eyes, I guess.
Yeah, right. Um, yeah, so I mean that's those references. I would always say, like, when in doubt, or you just wanna look for new sources of inspiration from books and, amazing artists. Usually, a pretty reliable source is going back to the masters, like,
Hmm.
going back quite a bit. I have one that I found particularly useful. It doesn't have to be about sculpture. I think you just take whatever resonates with you, and then you bring it into your own um, practice and your own workflow. So one, it's called the Treatise of Painting by Da Vinci, or the Treatise of Painting, um, where he talks about, like, a lot of different things on how he treats the painting. But a lot of that can also be translated in the way that you sculpt, like general concepts of, like, hierarchy of forms, what values you would add in a painting is the same thing as how, like, the areas of rest and the areas of details and all of that in terms of the sculpting. So yeah, just, I
Hmm.
guess the point is, look at the masters of the sculptor masters and the painting painters as well. So that would be up there for me.
Yeah, I would also like to add to that, like, you just made me realize, like, I think looking at other things outside of sculpture, like what you're saying, but also like even outside of, like, say, representational art, but more maybe on on abstract, like graphic design, like I was mentioning that earlier. Abstract, I mean, the genre of, is it called abstractionism? I don't know. Like, like
Right.
I've learned to appreciate that, those types of works where, artists just really kind of, because it speaks to me, right? Like the barest minimum
Mhm.
of shapes to communicate something, the most
Right. Right.
economic way, like to study that in another type of genre or medium is also very valuable. And then one thing that just, like, it came to mind is also animation, like reading up on animation, because that's all about rhythm, right? Follow through, rhythm, how things connect. Like a lot of the things that we do here, that, or the things that I've been talking about here, relates to every single aspect of the art outside of just modeling. And so I think it's good
Yeah.
to
Right.
expand your sights outside of just like looking at, sculpture. But I would suggest, obviously not, it's not
Mhm.
mandatory, but I would highly suggest just looking, you know elsewhere, like animation, graphic design, whatever, you know, cooking.
Yeah.
I don't know, like whatever
Yeah,
floats your
yeah, yeah.
fancy.
Yeah, I guess that's like totally true. Like you say, anything really that sparks something in you, and that you can, yeah, like you said, cooking, anything could be something that you go like, oh, this is like, I'm just like, as soon as you mentioned cooking, I just remember something. I was cooking some prawns, and that sort of like sizzling sound where the prawn like starts to sort of contract because
Yeah,
of it's being cooked. Like that sort of, I just started thinking like, oh, this will be like a cool creature, sort of like muscle type of thing. So
yeah.
that it could be anything really.
Oh yeah, the concept of cooking, like, say like you're not supposed to heat it, like this. That's where I find it to be interesting, where you can apply a lot of different concepts that were maybe not meant to be for like, say, sculpture or whatever, but like it totally applies, like car design, like, like the readability of how these designers design cars. It's like, oh man, I could totally apply that to creature design as well, right?
Mhm.
So, and I think that becomes a lot more interesting if you reference outside of, like, say, ArtStation or wherever, right? Into
Right.
like other areas of life, I guess.
Mhm. I think it's, on a side note, based on what you're talking about, like I think it's really cool how you just talking about this while you almost without really thinking, you're going through that model and adding these details.
Oh,
It's just like it's just like
yeah,
so it's like just coming up. This is the flow. This is what you were talking about. You're in the flow. You
yeah,
just
yeah.
doing
It's
this,
kind of like, like when you're talking on the phone and like you're drawing
doodling
on
or doing
a
something.
yellow pad or
Yeah, yeah.
something. You kind of just like, yeah, it's exactly
All
that.
right. So, but I'm also conscious of your time, and so I appreciate all
Oh
the
yeah, yeah. Yours
effort that
too.
you put into this presentation and everything. Um, I'm just gonna see if there is a couple more questions
Yeah.
that Brendan might have found that would be good for this,
Mhm.
and we wrap it up. And I saw a question as well about what I mentioned about the secondary effect of GeoBrush. So
Yeah. You
and
wanna you
all
wanna
these
share your
things.
screen, Pablo? Or
Yeah, I can share my screen.
yeah,
Give
yeah.
me a second. You don't
So
have
people.
to stop yours.
Oh, okay.
We'll sort
Oh.
it. It's all good. I'll get you. Sorry, Brendan to show it. Because I think this one would be this is more practical. Obviously, I think it's more the thing that you've been showing us and talk about is the foundations and the concepts of how to think about the forms and all of that is absolutely crucial. So what I'm going to show is very very quick, top 5 minutes hopefully, but it's more practical about how you can approach some of those things. Um, I think Brendan, maybe we could adjust the size of the screen just so that we can see the entire UI. But yeah, basically, is just giving you. Oh, I want to give you like some tricks of the GeoBrush that maybe not everyone is aware of, and also some tricks based on what the workflow that you're showing on masking by cavity. There's something that I think would be really really cool.
Ooh.
That yeah, just like it's a trick basically. It's a little trick, which like one of those golden nuggets.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
this is one of the creatures that or the creature that I created for the contest, which we'll put a link as well. So if you just came to the stream or you were not here at the beginning, we have a contest that is being sponsored by XP Pen, and the winner gets a magic pad. It's called the Magic Drawing Pad, which is an awesome tool. I'm not sure if you can get the tool that Gio showed us, the Fresco. I don't think it's available for Android. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I can
Um,
ask. I can ask.
yeah, but
Fresco team. Yeah.
it's a really really cool tablet. Like it's a standalone tablet, so it runs on Android. You can take it anywhere. Anyway, the winner of that contest gets that prize, and this creature is about that. So the contest is creatures of the deep. Hence the the whole stream that Gio has been talking about
The
those
deep
creatures,
turkey chicken.
the turkey, the turkey creatures. So yeah, it's kind of like to give you an idea and inspiration for that contest as well. And you have plenty of time. The deadline is on the 31st of August. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you can just join the Discord. You can participate as well by Instagram. Anyway, so this creature right here is for that. Obviously, it's not nowhere near the cool shapes and forms from Geo,
Stop
but
it! This is
you can
amazing.
you
Mhm.
can just definitely use some of the tools that he mentioned. So I have the ZBrush here, and you notice that the ZBrush, if I right click, the intensity is set to 5. Uh, that is intentional because it is a very very strong effect if you use the secondary effect. So I'm gonna go to the back just to show you that I don't work on anything that is not gonna be part of the shot right now. Um,
Amen. Same here.
so what I'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Um, I'm gonna draw. This is basically how I've seen that you use it, Gil. So if
Mhm.
you do this type of stuff, right, and then you do this, and then obviously you can modulate or control the pressure, right? So if you press really hard, it's going to dig deeper, right?
Mhm.
But if you keep the same pressure, right, if it is very very soft, and then you go back and forth over the same area, it will deepen the crevice. So for example, if I click here, go once, and then without letting go of the click, I go back, and then I do it as well. So
Oh,
you get
okay.
these little, these are like the pinching effect.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
right. So I
you
just
get
go.
what like if you go full pressure on the first stroke, it's essentially that, but a buildup of it, kind of
It's a
like
buildup, yeah. So
yeah, yeah,
if I press really hard, it's just going to be this,
that,
right? Like the
yeah.
normal effect, but it's going to be consistent. Whereas if I press really hard, and then or actually if I press, if you look at my camera, if I if I
Mhm.
just basically do this kind of motion and
Yeah.
then the stroke, that's gonna create that pinch. So I go first like this, and then I move it out,
Oh, that's cool because I do
right?
that with
So
clay buildup, like rub, 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 and then accelerate. So you
yeah,
can
yeah,
go rub,
that's
rub,
it.
accelerate. Yeah, that's
So
cool.
that's basically that what I refer to as the secondary effect. So I can go one
Pinch
really
point.
big and then go back to the center and then push that center there, and it
Oh
creates
yeah,
that,
look at
that sort of
that.
pinching effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I wanted to include. So make sure that yeah, that just you're aware of it. And the other thing is to do with the masking tools that you that I saw you using. That can be like a cool thing as well.
Which I couldn't
Um,
control.
yeah. So so if you this timeline here, this is not the movie timeline. That is your undo history. So you can visualize it. Yeah, that undo history. You can save the undo history on each subtool as well. But basically, you can hold the control key. The orange little icon or UI is indicating where you are right now. If you hold control and click, actually, I'm gonna duplicate that quickly just so you can see it better. So this is a new clone version of it that has no history at all. So that's why this is a big thing, right? So if you press the control key and click on it, it will save the state, similar to what Gio showed us with the morph brush. So you have that, and then you can just go ahead and let's do something a bit more in line with the flow of things. So you have all of these lines. It could be wrinkles, could be anything, right? But if you notice, you still have that undo history recorded, and then you have all of these steps, which are essentially those lines. The cool thing is that you can go, and this is why I have it here in my UI, but under the masking palette, you have these mask change points. So if you click on that, it's going to automatically mask
What?
anything between that saved point and where you are. So you can invert the mask and do like the smoothing beats. So you don't have to rely on that sort of mask by crevice or
Yeah.
mask by cavity, which I don't use anymore. so
Sorry,
so I
Pablo, where
use
was
this
that
here.
again?
So that's here
Masking.
on the, you go to the tool palette, go to
Yeah.
masking, and then it's called mask by change points, which
Chain.
is
I'm
I
gonna
have
write
it here
that
in my
down.
UI. It's
Okay,
a
mask.
fantastic tool. Yeah, and not only that, you could also, let's say if I invert this, you can also dilute the mask or boost it. So you can dilute it, which is not the same as blurring it because it actually looks at the range of the change between
Oh my
the state of the
gosh.
model at the beginning and at the end. So you get, you can do, let's say, the integration of these lines, you can smooth them out a lot easier without actually affecting everything.
It's like
So it
grow
is
and
a fantastic
expand
tool.
in Photoshop, I guess, like in a way, right? Like
Um,
you're growing and expanding
no,
the mask. Is that, or
growing in, yeah, in a way, I think
yeah.
so. I'm just trying to think about the growing and expand does it on an average, let's say, of an outline,
Mhm.
which would be more about in ZBrush would be more about blurring and sharpening,
Oh,
or like
okay.
sorry, growing and sharpening, growing and sharpening. The dilute and the boost mask, what they do is, let's say if you have these right here, visually you have just a line, but in fact there's a bunch of other points that have been subtly stretched, so that boost goes to that edge of like what are the points that
Oh,
have
okay.
been changed. So yeah, it's a fun trick that probably would and a very easy one. That's why I have it here. I can just do this and then mask change points.
That's good.
Obviously if you want to change these to new ones, you just hold control, click, do a couple more mask change
And
points,
then
and then
that's it.
there they are.
Oh
And
man.
another cool thing, again, going back to that sort of workflow that you showed us with the morph brush, you can use the morph brush, or if you have a saved point, I'm gonna go back all the way. Actually, let's leave it here, and I'm gonna click on the first one. So hold control, and I save that point in here, and I'll go back to where I have all of these things, right? And in here, instead of using the morph brush, because I didn't save a morph brush, I can go for the history brush. So I can press H, history recall, sorry. And the history recall does essentially the same thing based on a specific point in the timeline. So I can just do this.
What? That's good.
So this is a pretty cool way of working. The only thing or the only caveat is with the history recall brush, it works on a projection mode rather than a morph brush. So the morph brush is still a bit more powerful, but if for whatever reason you forget to set a morph target and you're like, oh, I wanted to do the thing that Gio showed
Mm,
us, you just need to go back in your timeline, save a point with control click, what I've been doing, and then use the recall brush. And that's
okay.
pretty much it.
Wow.
So yeah,
Like,
like
where was
cool.
this ever in
Thanks.
any of the ZBrush tutorials? I didn't see that. It's like
Yeah, I'm happy to
Pablo
do
knows
more,
like
more things.
Pablo knows
Um,
ZBrush right down to the very cellular soul
oh
molecule.
man, it's just I think I'm a little bit like you in terms of the that I don't like to get too deep. Well, this is a lie. I like to get deep into things,
Mm,
but it feels like too technical.
yeah.
It divorces myself from the whole. I divorce myself from the entire creative process.
Hmm.
So it cannot be that technical.
Yeah.
The technicalities that I get down to are essentially how can I improve a workflow. So
Mm,
let's say what you showed us, the tips that I can kind of like share with you, that I just shared with you, are essentially for that. Like they're not necessarily technical, but they're things that you can do to improve and make your workflow faster and more efficient. With like, oh, mask just the change points. I don't want to mask, millions of polygons with Dynamesh. I just want to
mm,
change those things.
mhm.
So yeah, I think that's how I interpret this whole idea. But yeah, I think that's it. This has been a very intense live
That was
stream,
a fact
but very
last year.
very cool. Yeah, so I just want to thank you again, man. It's been awesome to see such a uh, you know great insight into your workflow, and you are genuinely happy to share, which is, it just comes across like the excitement that you have when sharing these things is like,
Mhm.
if we didn't have a deadline, I could just
Oh,
continue talking about
yeah. All
this.
day, all night. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there's
yeah, yeah.
another live stream tomorrow if y'all are interested to the
Yeah,
dynamic shapes
exactly.
thing. So
So
I'll
I
need
think
to
that was
rest
like
up before that.
there was, sorry, I just caught up for a second. So
Mhm.
there was someone else asking in the chat if you could share the screen or the link to the Discord channel so that they can watch the tomorrow's live session as well.
Oh,
If
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
give it to, if you can just type it and give it to
Oh, there.
oh no, never mind. It's done. It's done. Brendan's on top of everything.
Thank
So
you.
uh,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, so that brings me to my next point. I want to, single out a couple of people here. Brendan Ramsey, who's basically producing all this stuff. So this is why now the live stream looks so much cooler,
It's like
and I get the chance to
pro,
to
man.
actually talk. Yeah, yeah. So that's all Brendan behind the scenes. So if you guys have like ideas for live streams, or you want me to, for example, dig a little bit deeper into some of the tips that I show Gio, or if you want to convince Gio to come back again,
I'm
just let us
Pablo.
know in the
Whenever you
community.
need, we'll talk about like other, stuff. So
For sure,
yeah,
man, for sure. So
yeah.
yeah, it's been super super cool. Like I said, I could keep talking about this, but I'm sure there's gonna be also many questions that come after the fact, or people that rewatch these later in YouTube.
Just message me on
So
Instagram. Ask me anything. I'm always happy to, or join our Discord. Message me wherever.
mhm,
I'll be happy to answer. So
fantastic.
yeah,
Awesome.
Brendan's on
Well, thank
top.
you so much also to you guys. The other person I should also mention, Dushko Borotowski, he's helping us a lot with all the community things and in the kind of like the research part of things with the YouTube stuff. So like I said, if you have like specific thing that you want to know, or that you want me to dig deeper in terms of a tutorial, or getting Gio to help us out with talking about the abstract shapes or something like that, definitely put it in the community, and we'll grab it from there. So thank you so much, guys, as well for joining, and it's been fantastic. Thank you so much, Gio. I'll leave it here unless you have anything else that you want to add.
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for sticking around, those who stuck around. I appreciate that. And yeah, any questions you may have, just please message me.
Awesome. So again, thank you so much, guys. Don't forget, Gil has another live stream tomorrow and like a few more this week. So just keep an eye on his Instagram. Yeah, it'll be really, really cool. And yeah, if you follow the Pablander Academy, we'll use this that sort of channel to communicate when we have these new live streams, and in the YouTube as well. All right, guys. So this has been absolutely fantastic, and I'll see you in the next live stream.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.